Greetings, dear precious spirit soul, divine being, eternal, genius, seed of God, whatever source is. Have it all. This is what's such a great thing to know, concept. There's nothing missing from you. There's nothing missing from you. There's nothing lacking. There's nothing not possible for you. The problem is when you're trying to fulfill mental concepts of who you are, other people's concepts and expectations for who you are. Well, first, to me, one of the most important acts or choices or decisions for me is I realized that my spiritual life, that's all there is, and that's worth pursuing or investing in. I was one of the first people out there doing like so-called self-improvement courses for businesses, and I had started a little company I called Success Plus, and I got myself, or divined it, or however it happened then, but I was then doing seminars for Fortune 500 corporations and businesses and my course was Effective Self-Management. Well, what I noticed so much is that when I would go into these business places, structures, there was such a repressive energy. Low ceilings. You could feel that people were like pressed down. And it was uncomfortable. And I'd have a headache. And I don't get headaches. And just be stifled. I thought, it's not worth it. The money here? I'd rather speak at a church, a spiritual place, at least. There they could be open to the divine, something more than what they've been taught. But then the problem is you get then all the different religious beliefs that have the gods fighting with us, or if you're not, we'll destroy you, or will you kill. This is, that's a mental God that can never be the divine. And all it can have is envy. So you notice the characteristics of the mind show you the characteristics of the creator of the mind. And it's based on fear. And fear is a fallacy. I was going to name this Fear is a Fallacy at the beginning, but I forgot what it was. So anyway, it's being always just used because of the fear of death. And then the fear of the death of your children, or the death of the dog, or the death of the cat, or the death of the earth, or the death of the trees. We call that death. Okay? So everything in this reality, because it is temporary, does go through those stages, because it doesn't last. It's not everlasting. Knowing beings are everlasting. And those who are thinking beings, are always tortured and run by the fear of death. So how can they live longer? Then they'll resort to, what they're doing, just terrible practices of harming and hurting another living entity, or using the remains of animals and humans and blood to be produced into humans. And what happens when that happens is it defiles the divine body by and also calling the human body an animal body. It is not. Even though animals are the same fabric. We're eternal beings. We're the same fabric. Some are expressing through animal bodies, and some are expressing through human. However, that happens in some form of trance state or hypnotic trance of sorts. Programming. Indoctrination, subliminal work. So the fear is a subliminal program of loss and lack, pain, suffering, death, non-existence, what you're going to lose, you know, your stuff, your money, your people, your sex, your this, or that. And also getting, and then everything is like operating on people continuously through whatever we have been watching or hearing or listening or reading or seeing. And if you notice what it is, not to stare at it, but just to notice, this is the plan, this is what is being done, and you could perceive now as movies of the long time ago, starting with Blackboard Jungle, you know, in some classroom in New York. You begin to think, and just look how everything deteriorated and all that. You know, some other things. Oh, we have so much more technology. We're going to have a flying car. We don't care about your flying car. No, we want children to be protected. We want also people to be educated on how their bodies function naturally. We want health for people and animals and such while you're in these physical bodies, because if we are, even though we're not of this physical body, when we activate our spiritual body now, and that's the job. And what happens with fear is it shuts down your immune system. And fear is a complete faith in something from the mind, like a word being an absolute, when you're the absolute. So the key then is to recognize and realize who you are, and then to notice then the fear of death, and then you realize how that's programming everybody. You could notice it and see it. I got to survive it. I got to do this, and then people will do things for that, and not realizing you could create any kind of a job you wanted. As long as you had something that other people would like to have that's good and good for them and all that. But you're not trying to be a billionaire. You're not trying to have gold faucets in a toilet, because what would you care about that? Okay? It's again the story of King Midas. And then he touched his daughter and she turned to gold, and everything around him was gold. That was it. It's going down, you count into your little purse, you take out, like, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. Goody, 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 goody. See, but you're an eternal being, and we all are. And there are some who have chosen the thinking path, the intellectual path, the numbers, the alphabet, the rules, the regulations. Yes. Going to control everybody, so it's my world. My world. Why? Because they forfeited their other world. And when you remember who you are, you can take it back. And even we've done maybe horrendous things, all of us, at some point. I have. I did. The mind. We were taught that. We were told to do that. That's not to say, well, it's up. No. Then you recognize and realize it. Yes. And then it's go, yeah, but those were thoughts. That was a different, that's not who I am. And the thing is, then you drop that guilt. Because, well, I got to use guilt, got to keep guilt, or I'll do it again. No, you won't. How did I give up alcohol? I stopped making myself feeling guilty, because it was basically my medicine at the time. And realizing how yucky it was, and what it did, and what it did for me, and what I would be like, because I'd be just out of the nasty mind would flow right out of my mouth. Yeah, really? Stinky body. I didn't want that. So I just asked the divine, please take it. I don't want it. The taste was gone. Because I didn't want it. Okay. Fear. It's just a word. Just a concept. Death is a concept. That's it. Don't worry about it. Be fully alive. That means be you to the full. Yeah. That's all you need. And then